بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. We'll be reviewing from the chapter Sadd al-Dhara'i', page 188. Prohibition of evasive legal means. This is what it means. He's saying in the beginning of the chapter, page 187, the compound noun Sadd al-Dhara'i' is used to refer to the nullification, ibtal of those acts which would result in considerable harm. So, Sadd al-Dhari'a is a way in the Sharia, is a source of legislating a ruling seeking to block an eventual harm that is going to happen if we take this path. And we say legislation is istinbat. So it's from the sources of the of making the rules, the rulings, the laws. Of course, Quran, Sunnah, Ijma', Qiyas, and one of the tools of the ijtihad is Sadd al-Dhari'a. Remember, the highest objective, what is the highest objective of the Sharia? What is the highest objective of the Sharia? The highest objective of the Sharia is the well-being of the whole universe. Remember this. Everything is going there. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam and sent them to be Khalifa, right? Khalifa, so he's like, his mission is a safekeeper, to safeguard the balance in the universe. How is he going to safeguard it? By righteousness. ولا تفسدوا في الأرض بعد إصلاحها. بعد إصلاحها, do not spread mischief in the earth after being put in order, by establishing order. Who did it in order? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the human being is not their task or their mission to invent a new thing, to bring order, just to maintain it as is, to preserve it, to protect it. Wow. So the highest objective as a Khalifa is to maintain the order on earth, which lead to the well-being of the universe. Always remember. And it's done through the laws that is kind of the laws that we drive, that we inspire, that we justify from the sources, the main sources, which are Allah's revelation subhanahu wa ta'ala. All the ahkam comes from Allah, leads to the objective that we said. That's why only in the way of Allah that you can achieve this high objective. Now, when we come to make the ijtihad, again, just to refresh the memories, the ijtihad is the action or the mechanism of extracting new laws, new ruling, to face a new situation, helping the believer to continue leading his mission toward the well-being of the universe. Say we have a new system, people are making money by loaning to each other. Say, hold on. Or what you're doing is going to make a profit. This is good for you. But how are you going to make profit? By this way, you're going to extort money. You're going to be cheating. You're going to be making haram. So this action is haram. We want you to make money, but not this way. It doesn't go with the spirit of the Sharia. It doesn't lead to the achievement of the objective. What should we do then? Let's put the system of the zakat. Put a business when you get in and you share the risk. That's how you avoid such things that is haram. طيب. We said the sources are very known, very obvious. Al-Quran wa Sunnah wal Ijma' wal Qiyas. Then it comes tools like this Sadd al-Dhari'a. The Sadd al-Dhari'a is a tool to avoid falling in a violation or avoiding to get to a harm. That's Sadd al-Dhari'a. Well, طيب. We mentioned some of the characteristics of Sadd al-Dhari'a, and we are here as قال I read what al-Musannaf, what are the different types of blocking in a way the causing or the path to a harm. Here you have it in page 189, I think. No, page 187. He said here in section 94 of his book Al-Furuq, Qarafi divided the means leading to evil consequences into three categories. 1, 2, and 3. قال مجمع على عدم سده مثل زراعة العنب خشية ما يعتصر أو يعتصر منه من الخمر ومثل التجاور في البيوت خشية الزنا. There's a factoriality that is there's a consensus between the scholars to not stop an action which might lead to a harm, to something negative, but this is if we'll do it, it's going to be excessive, extreme. Example, to say we should not even cultivate or plant grapes. Why? Because some people are going to make it as a wine. Say this is excessive. So this is a consensus. We cannot include it in Sadd al-Dhari'a. The same example, say we cannot have, for example, neighbors too close to each other, because some people they might lead to do fahisha. So you want to, abolish the whole system of neighborhood. Why? Because to keep people separate so they will not fall into fahisha or adultery. So these are consensus among the scholars. So such a thing is extreme. The second category, قال مجمع على سده. There's a second category where there is a consensus between all the scholars that this must be done because it's going to lead a harm. And you see, the harm that the action done, or the path to this harm, if it's very weak to get to this harm, so the Sadd al-Dhari'a will be also weak, and in some it will be forbidden, like this one. We say we forbid anyone to plant any grapes because of this. It might turn into wine. We say that's not right. Now, an action that, subhanallah, the path to the harm, it might be almost certain, is very strong. That's the consensus of the scholar, come to agree upon it. قال as كحفر الآبار في طريق المارة دون سياج. It's like to build a well, to dig a well in the path of the people without putting around it, kind of protection. Everyone who goes, he might fall into this well. Voila. Not only blocking the road, this is, you find like, this is very dangerous for everyone. Like kids will be running wherever they fall into the well. So I said it's forbidden to make wells in the street of the people, in the path where people they go through. You pour it on the side of the road and then you protect it. You make something around it so people to know it's where to not someone go around and get into it or things like that. Putting a fence or things to market as a siege. قال ومختلف فيه مثل بيوع الأجار. And some they have a scholar difference of opinion, like selling, with a term. بيوع الأجار is selling, with and paying within a time, within like a term. Not بيع الحاضر is the بيع that you buy, in present. So you pay cash at the time of the sale. The other one, the payment will come is delayed. So this is have difference of opinion about the scholar, because delaying the payment might lead to usury, which is the riba. Saying the author rahimahullah saying قال ولم يبحث عن وجوب الاعتداء ببعض هذه الذرائع دون بعض وما هو عندي إلا التوازن بين ما في الفعل الذي هو ذريعة من المصلحة وما في مآله من المفسدة. There's no really specific way to determine, to define what is the ذريعة. You cannot say this one, you cannot do it. Why? Because it's going to lead to haram. Said, let's have that balance, that analysis. The action you're going to do is good, but it might lead to something harm. This might lead, what is this percentage? And the thing that you're saying good, how good it is. And that's when we make the muwazana, the evaluation. If this good is going to lead to something which is going to cause more harm than the good you did, therefore do not do this, which is going to lead you to something hurtful. It's something that is very good, but some of the consequences is going to be harmful. Therefore, that good is greater than that harm, so you do it and you don't forbid it because of that. Well, there's things, for example, eating something. Someone is starving, you say, do not eat, because when you eat, you might have stomachache. He said, that ache or the pain that you're going to have, it's not, the percentage is very weak, depends on the situation of the person. So you cannot forbid someone to not eat because he might have, pain in his stomach, things like that. So that's the evaluation, which is an example, not logic, but we're talking about how you evaluate between the action and its consequences. So if the action is leading or give you more benefit, higher benefit, that one is going to have, let's say, the side effect. Now the example of medication, and another example. The side effect for a person that will not allow him to take that medication. Why? Because they are more hurtful to his health than the main medication, what is going to help him for his main, or the pain or the problem he has. If the side effect is minor for his system, that's why those commercial you see, it's like 1 second about the product and 10 minutes about all the side effects. So that's sad dariya. Let's say they can say, ask your doctor. So the doctor is going to be having this action of sad dariya. They say it's going to lead this for you, you cannot take it. So he forbidden the taking of that particular medication because it's going to lead to harming this particular person. This is in the Sharia, the sad dariya. وتأتي على التوازن. So it depends on the evaluation. فيقول بل المراد به أنه لو أبطل ذلك الفعل الذي هو ذريعة لحق جمهورا من الناس حرج. فإن now when we come to situation like we were talking about the grapes, to not be being just cultivated or to be planted, because what it can lead for people to turn it into white, to use it and to transform it into alcohol. He said, if we do such a thing, then there's a lot of people is going to be hurt, which is like you're going to forbid on the majority of the society to consume a halal, tayyib, thamr that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have it for his servant. قال لو أبطل ذلك الفعل الذي هو ذريعة لحق جمهورا من الناس حرج. So many people, they're going to have difficulties. You're going to cause them difficulty. Say, don't eat this. Why is haram? Why is haram? Because there's people that make out of it alcohol. He said, what do I have to do with these people? You see, so this will be extreme, is excessive. طيب. فإن العنب تستطيع الأمة أن تستغني عنه إلا أن في تكليفها ذلك حرمانا لا يناسب سماحة الشريعة. Now he going further, he said, the whole ummah can live without grapes. Okay, it's a necessity. But look what he's saying here. Therefore, he say, but the ibaha to have the grapes to be planted, even though there's people that will do out of it alcohol, it will be arjah, it outweighed as a hukum. Why? Because the Sharia is samha, is lenient, is moderate. And the factor to be upright is your piety, not the stiffness of the laws. Is your piety. So the samahat of the Sharia, as he's saying here, rahimahullah, it need to be also preserved as a spirit. You cannot make everything haram, then it becomes so rigid to the person that the whole nation will break. Now this has kind of, as we said, has kind of comment. But if we take the other example, we said we cannot have people next to each other as neighbor close. Why? Because it's going to lead to zina. قال بخلاف التجاور في البيوت فإنه لو منع لكان منعه حرجا عظيما. حرجا عظيما. So if we have forbidden, say it's forbidden to have a house next to someone, like, this is very close. You have everyone to take like maybe, quarter of a mile to be far. That is going to cause for the whole society is very, rigid and very harm, if you can say, to their way of living. Yeah. قال على أن ما يؤول إليه من الزنا مآل بعيد, because having close neighbor to each other and leads to zina, something is very far. That's why I said the consequences, what is the percentage of the consequences to happen, and that's what evaluate the validation or the justification of سد الذريعة. فمقصد سد الذرائع مقصد تشريعي عظيم استفيد من استقراء تصرفات الشريعة في تفاريع أحكامها وفي سياسة تصرفاتها. The مقصد الشريعة, the intent of this action of سد الذريعة is so great, and it's been actually extracted from the careful analysis of the behavior, the way of the Sharia, the spirit of the Sharia. But we have to put it in its place. We have to have it in that moderate and balanced way. We don't make it in excessive, so we have obligate the whole society to be in a very restrictive way, and not also to ignore it when we're going to have, through the lawful thing, getting a lot of haram things. وله في الشريعة ثلاثة مظاهر. In the Sharia, the Sadd al-Dhari'ah has ثلاثة مظاهر. I think he has them here in the next page. there's the first category, that there's action always leads to mafsada, to harm. As he's saying here, the first category of consists of acts that are undoubtedly means to evil consequences. وهذا القسم من أصول التشريع في الشريعة. So this you don't need actually to come up with a new law by using the tool of Sadd al-Dhari'a. They are already in the principle of the Sharia included. Why? Because once something leads to a violation, leads to harm, already the Sharia took care of it. Example, قال وعليه بنيت أحكام كثيرة منصوصة مثل تحريم الخمر. Like the example of the prohibition of al-khamr. Alcohol leads to intoxication. In the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the steps, in the gradual steps of the prohibition of the alcohol, of the wine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, they ask you about wine and gambling, say, فيه benefit for people, but a lot of hurt, lot of harm. And the harmful part of the alcohol and the gambling more than its benefit. So I say, what is the benefit in the alcohol? He said, people, they make money. Some people, you know, they will be like talkative, they can talk, they become like, you know, they have like entertainment, they laugh, they fun. So this is, they say, this is what people, they do it for. So let's call it manfa'a, but look in the other side, what's the madarra that causing. So if the harmful thing more than this minor benefit, then it becomes haram. Why? Because the protection comes before what someone wants to have as entertainment. So we know that the use of the wine always takes to something, leads to something that is hurtful. So this is from the principle of the Sharia. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that the path that the khamr is leading to is evil, therefore stop it, is haram. No. Well, the thing is, the person who's gonna, you know, someone he's selling grapes, selling grapes. The contract in which what he's selling is like the contract that he going to, you selling him grapes, not, as we said, what he gonna use it for, that is not part of the contract. But for someone to have wara, if he know that particular person is going to use it only for that, say, you know, I prefer not sell it to you. I'm gonna sell it to other suppliers, you can buy it, but I don't want to sell it for this purpose. But when it comes to say, like, people, for example, they place order, it's not in your responsibility to say what you're gonna use it for. You selling halal, and the accusation by the customer is halal. Now, is in his hand, what he's gonna use it for is his own choice. But if someone to be wara, when he knows this particular person, he came to him because he has big winery, whatever, and he said, no, I don't want to do this. Because if he's wara, he can buy it from other people. واضحة, because you will not obligated. It's like someone, for example, selling, you know, steel blades, knives. He's not gonna have a form. Everyone who comes, they say, I'm going to buy the knife for what purpose? I mean, if you're gonna hurt people, you're not gonna put it anyway. So that's the thing. قال then here وقسم قد يختلف مآله إلى فساد قال تخلفا قليلا أو كثيرا إلى فساد تخلفا كثيرا قليلا أو كثيرا. The second one consists of acts that might or might not lead to evil consequences. قال قد يتخلف مآله إلى فساد تخلفا قليلا أو كثيرا. We don't know, we might not. وهذا القسم قد كان سببا للتشريع المنصوص مثلا example given as an example منع بيع الطعام قبل قبضه. To prohibit to give the food, to sell the food before you have it in your storage. People, they sell before even the food or the merchandise get to their store. They already sold it. So this is forbidden. Because you're selling something you didn't even check and verify its quality. You don't have it. You get money on things that you don't have. And this leads to gharar. And and some of that didn't happen in the time as he's saying here. Say exactly. The likelihood of evil varies from high to low. This category is also the subject of textually enacted legislation, such as the prohibition of selling foodstuff before one has taken full possession of it. Certain variety of this type did not happen during the Prophet time, but afterwards, which is why jurists have deferred in their judgment of them, and this judgment, goes between sanction and prohibition. Their indecision is due to the fact that the evil consequences of those varieties might be manifest or covered, frequent or infrequent, temporary or permanent, and opposed or not by what necessitated the avoidance of evil. So the fact, as we said, the consequences when you don't have dhabat, when we don't know exactly is a harm or not, if there's oppression and fairness or not, all of that make the hukum from faqih to faqih to be different. So it depends. That's why sometimes mainly in the transaction, it requires a lot of ijtihad, because many of the operation and the transaction happening now totally different of the way that happened before. So there's a foundation of all the ahkam, which is to keep fair competition, and to keep, subhanallah, the right balance, to keep absence of gharar, which is gharar, cheating, selling things that are not the right value, getting the money and not deliver, all of that. So in economy, say you cannot buy something when you don't have it. Now, what if they guarantee to you the delivery and they don't have it? So it depends on the practice, and it's been happen, and they in the contract, if you don't get it, you will get paid fully back your amount of money, etc. You will be refunded, things like that. Therefore, the ijtihad here comes to look at the reality, and the most important, that's why we come sometimes to the Maqasid here. I said that's what the author wants to explain to us. If this happened for what reason? To avoid evil consequences. So if something happened before in certain way and led to evil consequences, we made it to be prohibited. Now, if the same thing is happening today with the same form, but there's no such evil consequences, are we going to still say it's forbidden? That's why in the chapter before we said the hukum is not related to the names or to the forms. The hukum is associated to the meaning, to the objective, to the intent. Voila. Any question? No.
So, for example, if you have a business and you put in your on the internet saying that for certain services that we like to provide, you have to put a down payment. If they do put a down payment and do not come to pick up the merchandise, or the delivery is not made, then does that money become harm? Or usually?
It depends on the agreement. Because if that down payment wasn't engaged in certain costs, therefore it's haram to take it. For example, you ask someone to do down payment, you invest from that down payment. For example, he wants from you a table, you're not going to initiate the work till he give you the down payment. The down payment, you're going to get your the wood, you're going to get the thing, so you're being committed. Part of the cost of what you're going to have, you invested. And he said, no, I don't want to take, you understand? So that depends on the agreement. And you have the right to take part, keep part of that down payment based on the initial agreement. But if someone down payment is say to guarantee that when it gets, I'll send it to you, not anybody else take it. But he doesn't come. What is the right to take this money? Because the money and the merchandise, you have it, someone else come buy it, and you have the down payment who doesn't have any equivalent. He didn't have any merchandise that is good. So that money belongs to the person. Makes sense?
Yeah, I understand. But that is on the product. What if it is on a service? Service is not a product. Service is a product in a way that is a complete thing, which we're actually providing a service to.
Well, that's what the service, that's why it depends on the agreement. If it's a service, then the service you're going to dedicate a time. In that time, you declined anyone to come at that time. So that cost, that's a cost. Because if that person give you a head time, for example, 2 days before, you could have find another one to provide them that service instead. Then someone need to factor all this element in the contract, in the agreement, like they do in hotels. Some hotels said, you have to book, and if you don't cancel before this time, then you will not be refunded. Why? Because you had me to have this room at your disposition, but you didn't come. So how can I refund you? You didn't give me enough time. So that's a service, but you need to know. You need to clear, oh yeah. But someone had defined, he said, I want this service, so yeah, you have to make the down payment. Okay, down payment. And then he said, I'm not coming, I changed my mind, can you please refund me? I said, no, I cannot, because you already said. I say, why? He said, because I had this time for you and you didn't come, or you didn't. He said, but you didn't tell me. Because it wasn't clarified from because when you say down payment, usually people say, for what purpose? So the purpose, he said, the purpose is to reserve for you this time, for example. Then by reserving for you this time, no one else will come. Per consequent, if you don't come, then you're gonna not be refunded, because this time was devoted for you. And that will be clear. With this by obligation, everything needs to be stipulated before the signing of the contract, before the agreement. Like the agreement, someone enters a store. The agreement is the price on the product. The negotiations start from that price. Anyone who doesn't put a price, he's already get into the gharar, get into violation. Because he said, how much this book? This book, and you look at the person. Yeah, I think he can pay good. And he get a price according to what the person looks like. That's haram, that's gharar. Or they give you double the price because they want to, they know that you're gonna bargain. So wherever price you go down, he's already making his price. But the sincerity and the fairness, and in business, when he opened, yeah, this is the price, $20. And then he start the bargain. The same thing for the service. Things need to be stipulated and agreed upon before starting or getting anyone. Any other question? Then he's saying رحمه الله القسم الأول أصل القياس في هذا الباب والقسم الثاني let's say I think yeah. نعم. القسم الأول, the first category that he mentioned, this is where you find the basis of the analogy. Why? Because it leads to certain evil consequences like the khamr. So that it can help us to be an example to measure on it. That's the analogy, that's the qiyas. والقسم الثاني يتجلى فيه القياس ويخفى بحسب ما يرى الفقيه من قربه من الأصل المقيس عليه وبعده. The same for the second one, as the scholar, they have different opinion because of the consequences, not sure are evil or not. Therefore, the qiyas is based also on the consequences. If the consequences are evil, so the faqih, he can use it as a base of measure for other laws. And if it's not, then it cannot. This is the most important thing to know about سد الذريعة. قالوا فيظهر لنا أن سد الذرائع قابل للتضييق والتوسيع في اعتباره بحسب ضعف الوازع في الناس وقوته كما سيأتي في مبحث الوازع. Here he introduced something which is important. سد الذريعة depends, we said, on the consequences of the action. If the consequences, the more the consequences we are, the more sure we are that it leads to evil consequence, the more the hukam need to be prohibition, toward the prohibition. If the consequences are presumed and this presumption is weak, then the hukam will not be the prohibition and will not be in a way to have even a hukam for it. Like the example when we say the consensus, things like talking about planting the grapes, that's excessive. Other thing he mentioning here, which is very important, we're going to study it in the next chapter, inshallah ta'ala, also, this very subject, that we call al-wazi'. Al-wazi'. Just check the time. Al-wazi'. Al-wazi'. Let's see how he called al-wazi'. Al-wazi' call it rigor. Al-wazi' is this power, if we can say, that the law will have on people to have them follow it and implement it. if you have a path, if you have, a law to be implemented, how will you enforce this law? The enforcement of the law, that's the waza. So, what makes someone to implement the law? Mainly his piety, right? His piety is based to the Quran and the Sunnah. Say, don't do this. Say why? Allah said so. He said, Astaghfirullah. Well, this is waza. So what was the waza? The tool, the way of the enforcement to stop a person doing an evil action is the law of Allah, is the Quran. Those people who do not have enough piety, the Quran will not stop them. So what is used then is used the sultan. Sultan is the government, is the authorities. That's why in the hadith, قال يوزع بالسلطان ما لا يوزع بالقرآن. You can enforce and implement the law by the law of the government, by the authorities, more than you can implement or do by the Quran. Because the Quran, you need people pious. The other one is like the authority people, they get like scared. Why? Because there's an authority that might be punished. Fahir, rahimahullah, he said to sadd al-dhara'a, beside the consequences, how the percentage of getting to evil consequences, that's how we determine the dhari'ah. But he said also, what is the waza, that when you do such a thing. So what is the, how much enforcement you're going to add to the law by doing sadd al-dhari'ah. Because some of sadd al-dhari'ah might be rigid in a way you have a negative reaction from the people. People, they will not trust anymore. They say, imagine a law, a new Islamic law. I said, what is the Islamic law? All the inab is haram, all grapes is haram. Why? Because some people are doing wine out of it, for example. Or because we are concerned to turn it into wine. This, subhanAllah, people, they react, some of them, they will rebel against this law because it's rigid. But if when you make a law in a way that people, they see how benefit in it, and everyone will understand, you say, yes, this leads to, this must be done. For example, you find like every time there's new type of intoxicant used. Some of the people, they don't know what this means. And it might be something in the street or in any shop, people, youth, they can get it. So Allah to come to forbid something, anyone who going to buy this or to take it away from the market. So people, they're going to be wondering, they say, we've been using it, say, no, it led to this. It actually caused for some, percentage of youth to be intoxicated. Other, they died. Other, they said, yes, we have to stop it. So the waza becomes strong when you put it. Why? Because the consequences that led to, they were strong. And that's قال فيظهر هنا أن سد الذرائع قابل للتضييق والتوسيع في اعتباره بحسب ضعف الوازع في الناس وقوته كما سيأتي في مبحث الوازع. And the waza is among the people too, mainly. So as we said, it depends on the piety or depends on the force. Because sometimes if you have people more pious, you might not use this sadd al-dhara'a because people, usually they don't get to it. Why? What is restraining them is their own piety. Others, you need to make obstacle to them in the path to not get into those evil things. Like the example we mentioned. طيب. Any question? طيب. نحن سد الذرائع, as you see, is mainly defined to block the evil consequences. Just to refer you what I was reading. No.
If the person that bought it turns around and sells that product that he bought from the competition, and he shows him he's paid it off, then he's got money. Is there any consequence?
Yeah, this exists in Islam. There's no harm in this, as long as the first contract is totally separate from the second contract, in a way. So the first contract is done separately, and you're going to pay, later, in the delay payment, and then he turned and he sold that particular product. So he finds another buyer, and he can buy it, yeah, or sell it. As long as you're gonna continue pay. So the first contract was delay payment, it doesn't have interest, so it's halal. Then it comes the second contract. If you find the buyer to sell it, he has the right to sell it. The first buyer will not obligate him to pay him because he sold the product he bought from him. No, they go on the same agreement. So these are two different contracts. طيب خير. طيب, سد الذريعة, as we said, is being defined only to insinuate, or in a way to block the evil consequences. But in reality, the Sharia, the spirit of the Sharia, did it in both ways. Blocking a path to evil consequences, but also make it easy and, make the pace to be faster when it goes to a good thing. So the spirit of the Sharia goes from both ways, goes to both ways. But Sadd al-Dhari'a, the scholar, they focus on what leads to something that is harmful. But also there's a positive Sadd al-Dhari'a, which the scholar, they don't call it Sadd al-Dhari'a. They have another principle for it. But in the way of the spirit of the Sharia, we do not block things because only leads to evil consequences. But an action which leads to positive consequences, the Sharia comes to give you more recommendation and obligate you actually to do what leads to what is good. Here he said, قال قد درجنا في سد في قال فلا يفوتنا التنبيه فلا يفوتنا التنبيه على أن الشريعة قد عمدت إلى ذرائع المصالح. So they use the ذرائع, they use this way to accelerate, to get to what is good. ففتحتها بأن جعلت لها حكم الوجوب. Actually, the Sharia made the means that lead to a good thing to something that is obligatory, made it to be obligatory also. So if the Sharia tell you do that thing good, you said, I cannot do it unless I will have this. So say, then have it. This is an obligation for you to have it. So to help you race for that good. And this is what we have in the في أصول الفقه. the principle ما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. Whatever obligatory acts that cannot be fulfilled only by these particular acts, then this particular act becomes obligatory. واضح. قال وهو الملقب في الفقه بالاحتياط. طيب. And he give an example. The last remark that he mentioned here, قال ومما يجب التنبيه. There's something very important that he said that I need to underline here. He given an example which it's a fact which is good to mention it here. Don't you see when people, go fight for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? People are being, invaded, people are, they have to obligated to fight. طيب, like for example in Ghazwat Badr, in Ghazwat Al-Ahzab, طيب. Fighting in itself, it leads to a lot of evil consequences for the person, which one the biggest of it is death, loss of family, a lot of these things. So يقول, but look, the greater action that is going to lead is going to lead to peace and the safety of the society, your own society. Because if you don't do such a thing, then the whole society will be taken by enemies and gonna be like killing and killing the young people, the women and the children and all of that. So how to protect the nation? You have to do things that is hated for you. That's why Allah قال كتب عليكم القتال وهو كره لكم. Fight being prescribed for you and you dislike it. So here the ذريعة في المصلحة. He said, even though the path to this great good for the whole nation to protect its peace and to protect its autonomy, its independence, its dignity, the path is that is something very hurtful. So Allah made it to be obligated in this case for the protection of the higher good. So the protection of the ummah is a wajib, is an obligation. And cannot be done except some people, they give everything they have. So that giving becomes an obligation. Why? Because without this, the ummah cannot be protected. طيب, the tanbih before the salat, inshallah, that he want to finish with. One more thing must be pointed out here concerning the understanding of the Sharia and practice of ijtihad. The last paragraph, it's in page 191, the last two lines, and then 192. قال, it is the distinction between excessiveness and the blocking of means. سد الذريعة that he called blocking of means. But let's say سد الذريعة because blocking of means has kind of can give confusing in the meaning of what we have we've been explaining. قال بين الغلو في الدين وسد الذريعة وهي تفرقة دقيقة. تفرقة دقيقة. Indeed, this is a subtle distinction, subtle difference. فسد الذريعة موقعه وجود المفسدة، والغلو موقعه المبالغة والإغراق في إلحاق مباح بمأمور أو منهي شرعي. Now, سد الذريعة, this action is intent is to block the path to an evil consequences. Excessiveness is to overdo things, to be excessive, to drown the hukum. Anything that becomes halal, you're going to turn it into haram. Anything that is mubah, you turn it to haram. And that's become excessive. That's become lead to rigidity, stiffness, absence of tolerance, extremism. And this is very important. So this is required knowledge, because Imam Nawawi said he's not a faqih, the one who will answer when someone be asked, you say haram, forbidden, forbidden, forbidden. He said the one who come to ask you, he knows already that he cannot do it. That's why he came. So he came to give him that the faqih, he wants you to give him solution. Haram is not a solution. Tell him this is haram, but you should do this. This is how you, the way out. Way out is not of you. There's a lot of, the ways of halal are infinite. You only came to this way. So you give him a solution. But when we make things out of rigidity, ignorance for some like stiffness, absence of rahmah in their heart, everything haram, 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 that is ghulu, that's excessiveness. The other one is sadd dhari'a. So this is what he's saying. We need to have, to mark this point and to underline it, to make this distinction between excessiveness and sadd dhari'a. قال أو في إتيان عمل شرعي بأشد مما أراده الشارع بدعوى خشية التقصير عن مراد الشارع. Or to have people to make an action recommended in the Sharia with more rigid way. Why? You say, you know, we are concerned to do any shortcoming. For example, give you an example. Say, when is the Fajr time, for example? Say 6 Ramadan. So he said, we have to have the suhoor at 5. Why? Because to avoid that people will eat late. This is rigid. His intention is good, to not have people. But look, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, to delay the suhoor. You see the rahmah? So the Prophet ﷺ said, delay the suhoor, oh my ummah, they're going to break their fast then. No, the rahmah. The other one want to be like, oh, maybe people, they're not going to do it well. Maybe they're going to do a mistake. Maybe they're going to forget. So let's have it an hour before, or half an hour before. That's rigidity. That's not sadd dhari'a. That's excessiveness. Because we have a text of the Prophet ﷺ, is to have the delay the suhoor. This is an example. And there's a lot of things in our life that people, how they make it, because that, to prevent any type of shortcoming, they make things rigid. Say, by making it rigid, you fell into excessiveness, and it's like you pushing away people from implementing the way of Allah. This is tanfir. قال وهو المسمى في السنة بالتعمق والتنطع. Actually, the Prophet ﷺ, he had a name for this in the Sunnah. قال, this attitude has been described in the Sunnah as exaggeration and tanatta, hair splitting. I don't know what they mean by hair splitting, but tanatta, I know. Tanatta is someone who jumping on issue that he doesn't know anything about it, like with ignorance. He talk with ignorance and he insists on things without knowledge. Stubbornness with ignorance. That's mainly the tanatta. طيب. وفيه مراتب منها ما يدخل في الورع في خاصة النفس الذي بعضه إحراج لها أو الورع في حمل الناس على الحرج، ومنها ما يدخل في معنى الوسوسة المذمومة. ويجب على المستنبطين والمفتين أن يتجنبوا مواقع الغلو والتعمق في حمل الأمة على الشريعة وما يسن لها من ذلك، وهو موقف عظيم. Now, he say, there's things that you do it yourself out of wara. Yourself. This is wara. He said, for example, if this meat here is halal, he said, yes, it's lawful. Hey, I don't eat it. I want to see it with my eyes, slaughter with my hand. He said, that's wara. That's good for you. But the same action to say, everyone who is eating meat is haram, that's tanatta. Why? Because scholar, they say, an example, just scholar, they say is lawful. So for some to make it to say haram, that's excessiveness. To say I don't eat it myself because I want to be like, just clear in my mind, peaceful with my heart, say that's wara, that's good. Because you want to verify everything, that's good. But this verification, if it goes to extreme, becomes waswasa. Waswasa. And that's forbidden in the Sharia. Someone, we didn't see you at the prayer, you were here. He said, I went to the bathroom and something, I saw it come on my clothes. I said, must be najasa. So I went home to change all my clothes. Take a shower, change my clothes. I said, where did you read this? I said, this is how I feel safe. For example, say this is waswasa. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, if you see something like that, you just take some water and sprinkle on the part where you think that some of the, urine or something get onto your clothes. But to go home and take a shower and change your clothes, that's waswasa. Or someone reading Surah Al-Fatiha, as Imam Ibn al-Jawzi mentioned in his book, he stayed in Surah Al-Fatiha 15 minutes reading. Because he heard the Sheikh that he said he has to have the right articulation of the huruf and the right sat'i, ad-dad, when you write it. So he say it, and he feel like he's not right. He keeps saying, waladdalin, waladdalin, wallah, and then go up, down, like 15 minutes. So he's out of the khushu, out of the recitation, get into the waswasa. And that's the other side of it. So the conclusion here, what the author, rahimahullah, as a student of knowledge, warning you, in future, inshallah, given fatwa, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the knowledge to help, not to give fatwa, but to help ourselves and help our people, inshallah. قال, those who will be come to the level of istinbat and ifta, they have to be careful of such things. Do not get into excessiveness. Do not get into the way of whispering, because these people who are in excessiveness or in this type, they're gonna make hard, practice of the way of Allah on people. It's gonna make it hard for them. And whatever rigid it goes, it will not last, but it's going to break. And breaking, it means, subhanAllah, debacle, it means chaos, it means like people running away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any question? طيب, when we come back, inshallah. After we come back, Salat al-Isha, inshallah, and we'll meet you after Salat al-Isha. Jazakumullah khair.